2015, Karnataka undertook a historic socio-economic and educational survey, essentially a state-run caste census, the first such comprehensive caste count by any state in independent India. It was commissioned by then Chief Minister Siddaramiah during his earlier term, from 2013 to 2018, to gather data on the socio-economic status and population of all communities. The exercise, overseen by the Karnataka State Backward Classes Commission under H. Kantaraju, surveyed about 5.98 crore people, which is about 94% of the projected population across 1.6 lakh villages and localities. However, the caste survey became mired in controversy from the outset. After its completion in 2017, the report was not immediately released due to a technicality, a missing signature, and more importantly, due to political sensitivities. Powerful groups feared the data might challenge long-held perceptions of their strength. Subsequent governments, the 2018 JDS Congress coalition and the BJP government of 2019 to 2023, chose to stall the report, citing objections from dominant communities, Lingayats and Vokkaligas, who alleged the survey undercounted their numbers. This caution stemmed from concerns that releasing caste figures could inflame caste tensions or upset political equations. Indeed, the last time comprehensive caste data was collected in India was in 1931 by the British India Census, and since independence, caste-wise population beyond SC and STs was largely ignored in official data, apart from an incomplete socio-economic caste survey conducted in 2011. The demand for data grew over the years. By 2023, Congress, back in power, had made the publication of the caste census a poll promise, framing it as a step towards social justice and equitable policy. National leaders like Rahul Gandhi also began championing a nationwide caste census, adding momentum and pressure on Karnataka to lead by example. In April 2025, the Siddaramaiah-led government finally tabled the long-awaited report in the state cabinet ahead of a planned official release. Notably, the report's contents leaked to the press just a few days before the special cabinet meeting, sparking immediate debate even before formal publication. Key findings of the caste census. The Karnataka Caste Census of 2015 presents a detailed demographic breakdown of the state's population by caste and community, packaged in dozens of volumes of data. It identified an astonishing 1,821 distinct castes and subcastes in Karnataka, including not just Hindu castes but also minority communities like Muslims, Christians, Jains, and others. This highlights the complex tapestry of Karnataka society, with numerous subgroups claiming distinct identities. Here are some of the major findings and statistics from the report. Overwhelming backward class majority. Approximately 70% of Karnataka's population falls under other backward classes, OBC categories. This confirms that backward class communities form a solid majority of the population, a figure even higher than national estimations used in Mandal-era policies. Notably, the survey included communities of all religions in its count of backward classes. For instance, Muslims are counted under OBC in Karnataka's classification. Scheduled castes as the largest social group. The scheduled castes collectively are the single largest group in the state. The SC community's population is nearly 1.1 crore, roughly about 18 to 19% of the total population. Within this, there is internal diversity. The report notes 108 subcastes among SCs and even disaggregates the SC population into categories like SC left and SC right in the data. The scheduled tribes population is around 6 to 7%, aligning with expectations, meaning SCs and STs together make up roughly 1/4 of the state's residents. Muslims as a major community. Karnataka's largest religious minority, Muslims, form about 12.6% of the population, around 75 to 76 lakh people. This makes the Muslim community the single largest population group if considered as one entity, larger than any single caste group when others are split by subcastes. The Muslim share slightly exceeds that of the next biggest community, Vokkaligas, in the raw data, a point that became contentious. Most of the Muslim population is urban concentrated, according to the report's rural-urban breakdown. Dominant castes by numbers. The survey delivered eye-opening numbers for Karnataka's two traditionally dominant castes, Lingayats, about 66 lakh people, roughly 11% of the state's population, identified as Lingayat, Veerashaiva Lingayat. This is notably lower than the long-assumed figure of 17 to 19%. An earlier 1990 State Commission had estimated Lingayats at 19%. The new data suggests Lingayats are still a major community, but not as numerically dominant as political discourse often held. Vokkaligas. About 61.6 lakh people, that is 10.3%, are Vokkaligas, a dominant land-owning community mainly in South Karnataka. This is also lower than previous estimates of 15% or more. Vokkaligas appear as the fourth largest group overall after SCs, Muslims and Lingayats in terms of share. Other notable communities. Among OBC groups, Kurubas, the shepherd community to which CM Siddaramaiah belongs, emerged around 7.4%, over 44 lakh people, making them one of the largest castes in the state. Other large OBC communities include the likes of Edigas and Billavas, traditional toddy tappers, and various Dalit subcastes and tribal groups, each contributing a few percentage points. The census data, by capturing fine-grained subcaste entries, showed that many communities which were previously lumped together have significant populations when taken as a whole. General forward castes minority. By difference, the so-called general non-reserved category population is very small. For example, Brahmins account for only about 15 lakh people, 2.6% of the population. Other forward communities, example certain trading or land-owning castes not classified as OBC, form only a few additional percentage points. This means over 90% of Karnataka's people belong to historically marginalized or backward groups, OBC, SC, ST or minorities, a statistic that has huge policy implications. Population and quota projections. The total state population was pegged at around 5.9 to 6.1 crore in 2015. Based on the new population breakdown, the Caste Census Report has recommended a revised reservation matrix in jobs and education. Notably, it proposes increasing the OBC reservation from 32% to 51%, and within that, doubling the sub-quota for Muslims from 4% to 8%. It also suggests readjusting quotas for dominant caste categories, for instance, Vokkaligas under category 3A to 7% and Lingayats under category 3B to 8%. If adopted, these changes would raise total reservations in Karnataka to about 73.5%. excluding a separate 10% for economically weaker sections quota, far above the 50% limit set by the Supreme Court.
The release of caste census findings has provoked intense political reactions across Karnataka's political spectrum. Given the implications from each community's perceived strength and share in reservations, it's unsurprising that parties and leaders responded sharply, often along the caste lines. The Bharatiya Janata Party, which is the opposition party, has vehemently criticized the caste census report, alleging it is a Congress ploy to divide society for electoral gains. BJP leaders have labelled this survey unscientific and its recommendations like increasing Muslim quota as minority appeasement. B.Y. Vijayendra, BJP's Karnataka president, accused CM Siddaramaiah of using the report to solidify his vote bank and even suggested that timing was to secure his position amid internal power sharing politics that's happening. The JDS, the Janata Dal Secular, which draws much of its support from the Vokkaliga community, has also reacted fiercely against the caste census findings. Former Chief Minister H.D. Kumaraswamy termed the exercise as a caste census or a hate census. Kumaraswamy was especially alarmed by the number of the Vokkaliga community, which came in at just over 10%, far lower than expected. He accused the Deputy Chief Minister D.K. Shivkumar, himself a Vokkaliga, of betraying the community by now supporting the report after earlier voicing doubts. Perhaps the most direct implication is on affirmative action, reservations in education and public employment. The data clearly shows a mismatch between the population share of the backward communities and the existing quota proportions. With OBCs forming over 70% of the population, the earlier OBC reservation of 32% appears inadequate in the eyes of many. The report's recommendation to raise OBC quota to 51% and to increase the Muslim sub-quota to 8% is an attempt to align reservations closer to each group's population. Adopting these would push the total reservations, that is SC and ST and OBC and minorities, to roughly about 73.5% and about 85%, including the 10% EWS for the upper caste poor. Implementing such a high level of reservations will be legally tricky. It breaches the 50% ceiling set by the Supreme Court's Indira Swani judgment. Karnataka would have to either seek legal remedies, as Tamil Nadu has with its 69% quota placed in the 9th schedule of the Indian Constitution, or lobby for a broader policy change. This report arms the state with data to argue that 50% cap is unrealistic when vast majority of the population is from the backward classes. It also opens the door for reconfiguring internal quota categories, for example, creating new most backward classes like 1A or 1B, as the report suggests, to ensure more disadvantaged OBC groups like the Golla, Koli and the Kuruba communities get a separate share. In the long run, the data might even prompt calls for political reservations for OBCs in legislature, since SCs and ST seats reservations are already there and are already proportional to the population. Overall, the caste census provides a stronger empirical foundation for expanding and fine-tuning affirmative action, which supporters say will make the system, but it also practically guarantees judicial scrutiny and inter-community debates on what is fair. The revelations about the community proportions could lead to shifts in how different groups seek representation in Karnataka. Traditionally, Karnataka's power structure was seen as dominated by Lingayats and Vokkaligas, who have produced most amount of state chief ministers. The census underscores that no single caste bloc has anywhere near a majority. Even combined, Lingayats and Vokkaligas are roughly 21% of the population, where SCs and STs are about 25% and OBCs are about 70%. This might embolden leaders from the large OBC communities or Dalits to demand a greater share of political power. Example, tickets in the elections, more say in policy making and whatnot, commensurate with their numbers. We could see a rise in Ahinda politics, the Kannada acronym for Coalition of Minorities, Backward Classes and Dalits, that Chief Minister Siddaramiah has championed, using the data to assert that this coalition represents the true majority of the state. On the flip side, dominant caste groups might close ranks to protect their influence. Already, the vehement reaction from the Lingayats and the Vokkaligas is visible. The leaders are suggesting a fear of losing political leverage. There might be renewed efforts by these groups to reassert their identity. For instance, a section of Lingayats had already demanded recognition as a separate religion. Such identity politics could get momentum as a way of asserting uniqueness and numerical strength. The data could also affect bureaucratic representation. Expect calls that government jobs at all levels should reflect the population composition, putting pressure on the administration to elevate officers from underrepresented communities into key posts. Publishing precise numbers can reshape how communities perceive each other. With the cat out of the bag, there may be jostling for number 2 position in Karnataka among the groups, since being seen as the largest confers of symbolic power. The initial leak itself saw a tussle in narratives. Some headlines noted Muslims emerge as the single largest community, while others emphasized scheduled caste largest group when combined. This nuanced distinction, whether to count subcastes separately or not, is just statistical. It strikes at how group identities are constructed. Some communities might attempt to unify subgroups to project a larger share. Example, various Lingayat subsets emphasizing a common identity to claim their 17% or so combined, rather than appearing at 5% plus 2% plus 3% fragments. Conversely, small subcastes that got separately counted may assert their distinct identities more strongly now. Since they have official numbers, this could fuel identity assertion movements among micro-communities. The data's release may thus simultaneously encourage broader unity in some cases and fragmentation in other.
In a sense, the caste census has held up a mirror to Karnataka society. It confirms that the state's identity is a mosaic of many communities, with the so-called lower and backward classes forming the bulk of the population. This challenges the public narrative to move beyond the historic focus on a few dominant castes and acknowledge the silent majority of the marginalized. If handled constructively, this could lead to policies that better represent the social reality. If handled poorly, it could sharpen caste rivalries. The coming months will test Karnataka's social cohesion as communities digest these findings and what they mean for their place in society. In summary, Karnataka's caste census report is more than a state policy document. It's a bellwether for India's trajectory on caste-based equity. It has inserted fresh data into a debate that affects the entire country's approach to social justice. The coming years will likely see the ripple effects, either a push towards national caste census and higher quotas, or a pushback warning of the divisiveness of such endeavors. Karnataka's experience, the benefits of knowing the numbers and the challenges of dealing with them will be closely studied by policymakers and political strategists from New Delhi to other state capitals. If you would like to know about the political implications of the same, let us know in the comments below and we will make another video for you. Until then, stay tuned to this space for more political breakdowns and deep analysis. Thank you for watching.